Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Short-Staffed. I work for a visitor attraction in London. Generally, we are out on the floor answering questions, etc. We had a dedicated team that worked in the control room, usually supervisors or those that wanted to become supervisors. Normally 1 or 2 people in the control room. They were never even on the floor. If they could help it, they watched the CCTV and controlled the breaks, lunches, etc. For instance, if a visitor sets off an alarm, they would call us and we would investigate the alarm. Management decided to pull the supervisors out onto the floor and train floor personnel to be in the control room. Good idea on paper, but in practice, supervisors didn't want to go on the floor, and those on the floor didn't want to go into the control room. Some of us already worked in the control room, as we relieved them for breaks, lunches, etc. Basically, if you were in the control room, you stayed in there. First training week went something like this. Someone that knew the control room, training 3 or 4 of the floor people. Needless to say, that put us short-staffed on the floor, and management had to go on the floor to cover. How hard could it be? It will only be a week, then I can go back to my cushy desk job. First day I was training 3 or 4 floor staff, and management/supervisors were on the floor. Management told me to treat them like normal floor staff. I asked everyone that I was training normal floor staff. We all got big smiles on our faces. Not even 10 minutes go by, and there was a radio call. Can one of you bring the keys for the front door so we can let the public in? It's a 5-minute walk from control to the front door. I radio one of the managers on the floor. Come to control and pick up the keys and take them to the front door. I get a phone call. Just have so and so bring them over. There's 4 of you in there. As per procedure, nobody is allowed out of the control room. Management takes 5 minutes to get to control and then take the keys over to the front door. So we are late opening. Next radio call. Which key is it? It's number X. They open the doors. Alarm goes off. Control, why did the alarm go off? You need to call control to let us know exactly when to take the alarm off. Procedure. All of this is written down. Procedures must be followed. Now that the public is in, alarms start going off for various reasons. The public loves going through doors that say, door is alarmed. Normal stuff. I start radio calls to management on the floor. Charlie 3, go to door X. Charlie 3, go to door Y, etc. Delta 4, relieve Charlie 3 for their lunch. Lunchtime I get phone calls from people who haven't been relieved for their lunch on time. Management hasn't figured out that travel time between your post and the break area is not included in your break. If you have an hour lunch and it takes you 10 minutes walking time to get there, then basically your lunch is 40 minutes. Normal control room staff knew this and would start lunches early to give everyone as much as possible a full lunch. More radio calls. Charlie 3, can you check the toilet? Report of water on the floor. Charlie 3, can you go to X? Visitor wants to use a voucher. Actually, Charlie 3, go to door X. But I'm with a visitor. Doors take priority, Charlie 3. For the rest of the day, we ran management crazy. Everything in the procedures was adhered to. Count the empty spaces in the car park. Check locks on the emergency gates. Check toilets, mans and women's, to see if they need to be refilled with toilet paper. Look for lights out. Fill in your task book, etc. Next day, needless to say, I wasn't in the control room. Didn't matter. The tone was set. Didn't matter who was in there. The rest of the week went by the same. Everyone that followed me ran management nuts. Management, to their credit, changed some things after that. Black sneakers can now be worn. More break rooms closer to posts have been opened. Procedures have been loosened up. Control people are back in control. And floor people are on the floor. Everyone is now trained in the control room, but they only have to work it if they want. Still was a glorious week. The next story is called Only with Permission. I work in security and our company has many different clients and no fixed posts. So I jump from side to side. The site in question Client is one of the more complicated sites for us and has an awful work atmosphere. We man the gates, and next to the normal truck traffic, there are also multiple visitors coming, some of them so often you basically know them by name, and we just open the gate for them because they are here every day. One of the middle managers, Power from Client, is one of those people that think they are the most important person in the world as soon as they get a little bit of power. For example, when Power got into middle management, Power decided that this way everybody could just come and go in. So we got the new order to not let anyone external in without getting the okay from the person responsible for them. This alone made all postmen and so on not happy, since we stopped them now and first called the people who take the packages from them, making them also really annoyed. Then it happened. Some very important people came for an appointment with Power first thing in the morning. Something much money was hanging on. The good girl I am, I tried calling Power for 15 minutes. No answer. This means I can't let the very important people in. I told them so sorry. Obviously, they were not amused, but my idea that they could bill clients for their wasted time made them less unamused. Power came 15 minutes later. His car had issues. He told me that he has a very important meeting, and if very important people come, they can go directly to him. I then told him the sad news that they were here already, and I tried to call Power for 15 minutes, but after I couldn't reach him, I did send them a ray, as our new instructions demand me to do. The instructions were very quickly withdrawn to the earlier system, where we could let people in if we know who they are without needing to ask first. The third story is called Micromanager. Back around 2003, I was working for a consulting company. The client we were working for was a bank that had us working from the -2 basement, which consisted of a warehouse full with ATM replacement parts and another retrofitted warehouse with desks for us, flickering neon lights, ventilation columns. The only thing resembling a window was a poster of a window the consulting company hung up on the wall. Cell phones weren't that common then. Internet was kinda on, but everything was blocked because of the bank's firewall. We had to access Google via IP address. Working there was hard. The only distraction was having a talk around the water cooler and going upstairs to get a coffee. We were like 30 people, split into 2 big teams doing COBOL and one smaller one doing web, .NET and whatever else somebody asked the manager to deliver. I was part of the smaller one. The client asked us to track how long it took to finish each task. This was handled by each of the 3 team leaders, and people had a little bit of a leeway on how to report hours spent. So each team member would tell team leader whenever a task was finished and how long it took. It worked pretty well, because team leaders were chill and the guys were serious and didn't slack much. The manager was all about micromanaging. One day, my team leader and I were called into a meeting with the micromanager. Look guys, I have a feeling we are not working hard enough. I need to be able to report the exact amount of time we spend on each task to the client. I want you to have some kind of software, so people can input the time they spend on each thing. Team lead tries to explain that the current system in place works rather well, and there's no need to change the status quo, that the numbers were accurate and such. Micromanager says that it's not enough, that people are wasting time, and he wants accurate tracking. I was like 23 at that time, my first job, but the team lead had a knack for malicious compliance. He designed the system. It consisted of a little traffic light in the taskbar. Red meant you were assigned. Yellow meant a temporary stop. Green meant unassigned. In order to change from one color to the other, a pop-up appeared, and you had to input the reason for the change. Then we created a web page that summarized and presented the data anonymously. It also had an export button, so Micromanager could check and use it to report himself, faster than how the team leaders were doing it. At least that was Micromanager's idea. We installed this on every computer and showed Micromanager how it worked. He was happy and told us to explain the system to the team in order to start the trial run of the idea right away. So we did. Team lead gathered every single team member and told them that Micromanager wanted an exact tracking of each one. He repeated time and time again the word exact. probably 50 times in 5 minutes. He also said that the next day would be a trial run for the software. The 30 team members understood right away and complied in an exact way. These were the highlights from the report, with time added up after the trial day. Arrival: taking code off, no hanger available. Try to hang it on top of other code. Both fell. 5 minutes. Cover tag. Had to get a glass of water. 5 minutes. Joke. Morale booster. 2 minutes. Lost track of thought. Realized I was looking at the poster of a window instead of a window. 3 minutes. Gone to the toilet. This was like 400 minutes or so. 30 people, 2 times in the day or so. Discussing last night's football match. 50 minutes. Air too cold. Had to ask maintenance to up the temperature. 4 minutes. Somebody asked for the temperature to be upped. Now everybody is sweating. Had to ask them to lower it. 2 minutes. Inputting change of state in traffic light app. Something like 2 hours in total. The list kept going on and on. The real data was also there, but it was practically unusable. Before leaving the office, the team lead called his team, and we had a really good laugh reading the list. The next day, when we arrived, micromanager called the team lead, told him something, and team lead asked me to uninstall the traffic light app from every computer. The last story is called Tracking App. This happened many years ago. When I was a field organizer, I ended up with a manager who had explicitly said she didn't want to manage anybody, but a series of events meant I was her direct report. In our initial meeting, I went over everything I'd been doing up to that point, where to find my weekly, monthly, quarterly and annual reports, how to keep track of where I'd be, and how to give me feedback between our monthly check-ins. She was not used to working with field organizers and was shocked that I wasn't going to be in the office except for meetings and to turn in my reports. And it's fine to not know things. But then she went and said, if you're not in the office where I can see you, how will I know you are working? You could be doing anything you want and I'd never know. Over and above what kinds of assumptions that makes about my character, whether or not someone looks like they are working is a terrible metric for measuring what work is actually getting done. But I kept that to myself. Rather innocently, I offered to have my task tracking app send her an email whenever I accomplished a task. She agreed. The thing about me is, I'm a fast worker. I always have been. It's been a bone of contention with people who I work with. I create backlogs. I make other people feel weird about how much they do in a day. I used to get upset about this and wish everybody was as fast as me. But this time in my career though, I learned to keep it to myself and spend some portion of my day pacing myself with others, or to find jobs where my pace wasn't that strange. This job was the latter. We were doing underfunded, community-driven work, where the failure or success of a project sometimes meant that the people we served couldn't pay their rent or afford food. So I was blazingly fast. After 3 days of hundreds of emails a day, notifying her the second I completed a task, my boss decided that she actually didn't need to know whether I was working or not. We actually became good friends after that, because we realized we had a lot in common, and we teamed up against the other bosses, who kept making terrible decisions and putting us in bad places, because they knew we were both competent enough to solve their problems for them. Neither of us worked there anymore. We've moved on to much better things, but we are still friends today. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.